Hi, thank you for joining me today. So आज का conversation is centered around femininity और क्यों हम उसे lesser समझते हैं. Like I have an almost 4-year-old और अभी भी वो ऐसे बोलती है जैसे मैं खाऊंगा, मैं करूंगा, मैं जाऊंगा. तो जब कोई और सुनता है तो उसको लगता है कितनी क्यूट है, ऐसे बोलती है. इनफैक्ट मैंने बहुत अडल्ट एज गर्ल्स को भी इस तरीके से बात करते सुना है एंड पीपल मोस्टली डोंट से एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. बट अगर कोई लड़का, चाहे वो टॉडलर हो या बड़ा हो, ऐसे बोलेगा ना, तो पीपल विल डेफिनेटली रेज एन आई कि ये कैसे बोल रहा है, ऐसे क्यों बोल रहा है. तो ये जो छोटी सी चीज़ है यही दिखाती है कि हमारे दिमाग में जेंडर्स को लेकर ये जो मैस है, जो हम फेमिनिटी को लेसर समझते हैं या वीकर समझते हैं, ये छोटी सी चीज़ भी हमें शो कर देती है. और ये चीज़ सिर्फ हमारी कंट्री में नहीं है, ये बाहर डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज में जैसे यूएस में भी है. आई वॉज रियली सरप्राइज जब मुझे ये चीज़ पता चली, क्योंकि मैंने बात की क्रेग पोमरांज से, who is the writer of a book called Made by Ruffy. It's a wonderful book about a boy who likes to knit. फिर बुक में ये दिखाया गया है कि किस तरीके से उसके जो क्लासमेट्स हैं वो उसको बुली करते हैं और कैसे वो सिचुएशन रेक्टिफाई होती है. यू विल डेफिनेटली लव इट. डू चेक इट आउट ऑन Amazon. और जो हमारे आज के गेस्ट क्रेग पोमरांस हैं, राइटर होने के साथ ही एक सिंगर और एक एक्टर भी हैं. और आज के एपिसोड के एंड में आपको उनका गाया हुआ एक बहुत ही प्यारा सा सॉन्ग सुनने को मिलेगा. द सॉन्ग इज कॉल्ड डिफरेंट. Stick with us till the end. चलिए अब इस इम्पोर्टेंट कॉन्वर्सेशन को स्टार्ट करते हैं, जिससे कि हम अपने थॉट प्रोसेस को इम्प्रूव कर सकें, अपने बच्चों के फ्यूचर को भी इम्प्रूव कर सकें.
Hey there, welcome to Little Fixes, a podcast for the sassy, classy and a little choosy भारतीय नारी. This is Macri. मैं और मेरे गेस्ट शेयर करते हैं सिंपल प्रैक्टिकल आइडियाज जो आप इजीली फॉलो कर सकते हैं to get closer to the kind of life you want to live. We talk about career, self-care, social media tips, parenting, relationships, and so much more to help you thrive. All of this is mixed with a lot of laughter. So, my lovely friend, continue what you're doing and join me in this real talk. So, Craig, welcome to Little Fixes podcast. I'm thrilled to have you here.
I am thrilled to be here. Finally.
Yes, finally, after a lot of glitches. So let's start the conversation with the story behind your marvelous book, Made by Ruffy.
Okay. So my godson was having trouble sleeping one night, and I had said to him, "Are you okay? And what's going on?" And he said, "Well, you know, all the kids at school, they say dude, and they are really like rough sports, and they're very loud." And he paused and he said, I like to sort of be quiet, and I like to knit. And he said, "Is there such a thing as a tom girl?" Mm-hmm. And there was no such thing as a tom girl. But it was interesting because I immediately thought it's a word that's so relevant and has already an inherent meaning. And what is that? Like, what is a tom girl? A tomboy, which is a well-known term, is, you know, a girl. Assertive and it's positive, but if you say tom girl, there's an immediate hesitation and negative concept of like,
I have never heard that term. Actually, I read it in your book itself.
Yeah, so it was disconcerting because it started to make me really think about. And I took the story further and wrote a book about it. But more and more, especially after the book, I kept hearing from parents and other people, and just the understanding of why is feminine a negative idea, and what does that say to both little girls and little boys, you know, and how the world of girls grow up with this already sort of unfortunate lesser than idea, and that really upset me.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, how is knitting even exactly feminine thing? Because the designers we know, like the biggest designers in the world, they are all men. Then nobody will say anything. They are men, they are knitting or they are sewing, whatever they're doing. But if you're doing it as a child, or maybe if you're not a designer, people will say things like that. You are doing feminine stuff.
Same thing. Yeah, I had written another book based on Rafi, called Rafi Baking, and where he bakes, and it's the same thing with chefs. If you think about it, it's like when you think of a little boy in the kitchen, there's this sort of immediate sort of response that's negative. But all the most famous chefs are men.
Gordon Ramsay, who doesn't know him?
I've been trying to write a book about the positivity of the word feminine and how one can do that, and it's really hard because even in the dictionaries they set it up that masculine is a very specific thing, and feminine is usually, as you said, weaker or I always say, sort of think lesser than, which is interesting because certainly I can't think of being feminine to me. It's like, how strong can it be? There, women who give birth, nothing could be stronger than that.
Right.
So but we still have this very sad idea, and it's hurtful to everybody, and obviously it's hurtful to boys, but I think it's really hurtful to girls. So
yes.
So
It is very common to say things like, you are not my daughter, you are my son. It is also a very common phrase used in India when a girl, looks after her parents, even after her marriage, as it is said. So the people will say that she's not my daughter, she's my son. I mean, why do you need to say that? She is your daughter and she's taking care of you. You don't need to call her your son. She's your daughter and right? She's doing just the thing a kid wants to do. Maybe a kid should do when it comes to Indian society. But I think there's no need to compare this thing with son. Does it happen in US also? Like, how common is that? Doing such kind of comparisons between sons and daughters. Is it common?
It's not. I don't think that's as common, that kind of phraseology. I do think that it's interesting because I was thinking right before we came on, I was thinking that in America, I would say we're so much more repressed about these ideas. But in India, it seems that, as you were saying, it's more visible, the phrases that they use, and it's more restrictive. It's like legal things and restrictive things make it harder, whereas in America people just sort of very repressed and don't talk. Which, I mean, not that we don't talk, it's that's an interesting difference between the cultures. The language is using, I just don't understand it, and that's because I didn't grow up with it. So it's very disconcerting. I think the real question is, how do we change that? And part of the problem is because it's inherent in the culture, in all of our cultures, that parents have trouble with that. And I think we had been chatting briefly about the idea that parents want to protect their children so much. But, you can't protect your children from everything. And they have to experience things on their own. And obviously anything violent or really damaging, you want to protect them from. But, I had said, I think before, that I have friends whose the example being their little boy was wearing his mother's, high heels, which is a very common thing, not so uncommon. And why shouldn't we let children explore all facets of themselves? That's how they learn how to become a whole person, and it doesn't mean just because he's wearing high heels at 4, he's going to wear high heels when he's 25. But but the thing is, these parents were like, oh, he's fine, we let him wear the heels at home. But when we go out, we always say to him, you can't do that in public. And I said to them, well, but you're doubling down on the problem, because now you're making it an issue. You're like making it, that child now sees it as a negative. Oh, I'm doing something weird. I have to keep it secret. I have to keep it at home. Yeah. So you're not really protecting. Then you're just making it worse.
Yeah. My brother, when he was very young, he enjoyed applying nail paint to his toes or on his fingers, because we were 2 sisters and he always saw us doing this, and he always enjoyed it. But my mother never stopped him because she used to think it is cute, but he stopped on his own. And now he's like, I used to do that. How could I do that? Now they think like that.
But what's curious is, I'd be curious to find out why he stopped. Like, did he stop on his own, or did he all of a sudden, why did he all of a sudden think I shouldn't do that?
He stopped on his own. Once he started school, maybe he realized that it's not a boyish thing to do, as they say, right?
Right. That's the problem. The problem. It's interesting because now with all the pop culture and the music and all the Bollywood, all of these new Bollywood heroes that you have, I guess, or how that's affecting younger boys now. I read all the time about these Bollywood actors and actresses who are trying to transcend these gender stereotypes. I'm not so sure how that affects younger kids. Do you see a change there?
See, I think our generation of parents who are, we call ourselves millennial parents. So we are trying to bring the change. We are trying to talk about these topics, and we are open to talking about such topics with our children. We are introducing them to, multiple gender identities and things like that. We are not saying that you cannot do this, you cannot do that. But saying it and practicing it are still two different things. Not every parent will accept their own kid doing this. Still,
But
I'm
also,
sure.
same thing. They may be at home, but not out in public.
Yeah. They will support. They will say, "I'm open. I'm accepting of everything." But if their own kid wants to do this, they may not be that open. So yes,
I thought,
this is the problem. Uh-huh.
yeah, it's an interesting thing how it's easier to sort of be accepting and understanding of these things when it's someone else's child.
Yeah.
When it's your, and and again, it's like you think you're protecting the child, but what you're not doing is creating a healthy child, right? And that we all need to try on different skins in order to find out who we want to be in the world. And that's constant. It should be evolving and changing. And these things that you do as a child, if you know that you have the freedom to sort of go through them, then you incorporate what you want, and then you get rid of what you want, and you don't feel weird about something, or you don't feel like, oh, this means I'm something that I'm not. It's and none of these are specifically labels, and that's the other problem. We label everything, right? So the minute that your brother was wearing nail polish and entering school, then someone might say, uh-oh. Which also, why should it be uh-oh? Why shouldn't it be like, oh, he's creative and interesting? Instead, it's like, oh, maybe he's a little quote unquote funny. So there has to be a way that we can be easier with our children, and it's accepting of the fact that we all, even as adults, we try on new skins. We try things. We have to understand that this freedom is only good for children.
Yeah. See, even if our kids are not different in that sense, still they will be more accepting of the other things that different kids like to do. They will not be bullies. They will not, try to make everyone look like themselves, behave like themselves. The different kids, they try to fit in.
Right.
Because of the bullies or because of the societal norms. But if we raise all the kids like this, where there are no gender stereotypes, there is no bias, I think every kid will be accepting of others, and the kids will also not be unsure of showing their true side, their true creativity, or whatever it is, right?
Well, I think that what we want and hope for is that every child can develop a sense of empathy and try and understand the world around them and the people around them. We can maybe we'll do another podcast later on about bullying, because I have trouble with that idea, because we will never stop bullying. And I think that's one of the major issues in the world now, especially among parents, is like to stop bullying. And I think that what they don't understand is you can't ever stop it, because everyone's always vying for their position in the world. What you can do is give the tools for a child to be so self-sufficient that they won't be victims of bullying. But, it's just the term bullying and the way it happens, that's a non-starter. It's just because I think that it will always be there. But there's always someone who's like, well, why am I not first in line? Or why is that person wearing this color? Or this has these Nike shoes and I don't have. I mean, there's, but giving the tools for a child to not be a victim of anything, I think that's a good goal. That's a good goal, because if they become self-motivated and empowered enough to not let something happen to them, hopefully.
Yes. So your book talks about a boy who likes to knit. It's certainly a very different topic. So did you try getting it published in India, or are you just selling it on Amazon?
No, it's in 11 countries already and 8 different languages. I would love for it to be published in India. I actually, I've gone to Sri Lanka. I used to go to Sri Lanka 2-3 times a year, and I tried to get it published there. But it's not easy because of what we're about. So anyone out there, if you know a publisher, publish my book. But because I think it's that important. But yeah, I would love it to be published in India and Sri Lanka, because I think it's become an important book. And I'm sorry, I'm thinking through things, because I was supposed to be published in Turkey, and I met with all these publishers in Turkey right before there was the coup. And before the coup, they were ready to publish it. But after the coup, it became such a more conservative area, they had not to. But the same thing, that the book was being reviewed in America, in Texas. And the editor of a very big Texas paper wrote me and said, I want you to know that I love your book, and I bought it for my grandson, and I would like to write about it, but here in Texas, it would not be very acceptable, so I can't do that.
Okay, even there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even in the first country to purchase the book was Italy. And what was fascinating about that was they said, we love this book, we want to publish it, but can you in the illustration make the character's hair shorter? It's too long. And I was like, well, that's kind of part of the point of the book, but we did. We shortened the character's hair a bit. Same thing with, China, where Asia, where the book is in China and Korea. We can't, my godson happens to be blonde. So originally the character was a blonde, and they said, well, we can't have a blonde. We'll never sell a book here if it's blonde, kind of thing. I mean, so everywhere you go, there's a little bit of a new idea to learn from.
Yeah, there's some pushback. I saw your book on Amazon, and I was like, okay, it is at least available if someone wants to read it. So yeah, maybe it will be published here also soon.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's and that it is a part of the conversation, and that it doesn't matter where you are. It's like human beings, basically human beings, which of course is the one lesson we all need to know, right?
Yes.
We're basically the same people with feelings and conditions, the same human conditions. And then, you extend that to the better or worse things that happen to all of us. But we basically do the same thing. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. Most of all, we want to be loved for who we are.
Yes, certainly. And what will be your message to people who are against embracing these kinds of differences?
I would wonder I don't want to antagonize anybody by saying, well, I wonder what you are afraid of. But I wonder what the fear is that would keep someone from not trying to, no one says you have to agree with something, but don't you have to at least give it some time to understand what someone is trying to say by their actions? What is, and without immediately, the problem is we label things so quickly and we make these ideas so quickly without immediately labeling something. Can't we sort of see something as we were saying, a boy with nail polish? Can't we say that's creative and not all of a sudden take it to another level of like, oh, well, maybe he's quote unquote gay or something, which of course has nothing to do with painting your nails. It's about sexuality. It's about discovering the world and the different places you can be in the world. And we want our children to be really engaged in the world and engaged in conversation and not be afraid. I mean, part of the problem with these kind of stereotyping is that it's limiting on so many levels. It keeps kids from engaging in conversation. It keeps girls from, going into mathematics, evidently, or whatever it is, something a little different than the norm of like, okay. Or it keeps boys from, going into home economics. I don't know if you have home economics there.
We have something similar. It's called home science here.
Yeah, home science. It's like, first of all, aren't you a better person if you know how to cook your own meals?
You know what? Home science is not even an option for boys. When I was in school in 6th standard, there was the subject introduced to us. It was called home science. It was only for girls, and the boys were supposed to take book craft.
Of course.
Yeah.
And why can't a girl take construction or like learn how to I want to build blocks or something?
Yeah, right. It isn't even introduced, and as you say that in a more evolved society like that of America, we in India think that you guys are very progressive, and we watch your movies and things, and we think that the life of women there is much easier compared to life here. But I think every society has its own struggles.
Well, and every advancement you make,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be you're going to learn the new struggles with that advancement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's something to remember, that you're, again, it's like bullying. You're not going to stop these things, and nor should you, because the whole point is that we're evolving as human beings, and we want to evolve to be the best human beings we can be. So the story of my godson Rafi, who because he was so well supported when he started knitting, and the kids at school started, making fun of him as knitting. And this goes along with what you were saying earlier. Then all of a sudden the teacher this is a true story, that the teacher had said, we're doing a play. And so Rafi thought, well, I'll make the costumes for the play, since that's what I can do. So he made a cape for the prince of this play. And the prince, the boy that they decided to be the prince, happened to be one of the bullies of him. And
yes,
when Rafi made this cape, all of a sudden he was like so impressed. That, of course, because it was for him, the bully. And so then all of a sudden everyone was thinking, well, wow, this isn't weird that a boy is knitting. It's like great that he's like going to be a famous designer someday and make me clothing. I mean, this is a true story. And it's sort of like, it's so relevant to the world about what we're talking about. It's like when you understand what someone is about, then it makes it easier to live with and understand and enjoy.
Yes. So here's to raising empathetic kids who are accepting of everything. Like,
yeah, and here's to hoping that parents, will allow them to be that free.
Okay, so Craig, it was lovely talking to you about your book, and I'm sure that our listeners will love to get your book, and they would also love to find more about your work. So please let us know where we can find more about you and your work.
Okay, well, I am at craigpomranz.com, which is impossible to spell, but it's
I will link it.
Yes. Oh, good. Link and the book can be found everywhere and in different languages. In case you and I have new books coming out, hopefully also about empowering children. My next major concern is body image, especially again for girls. The idea of what we expect people to look like. So yeah, craigpomranz.com and Amazon. You can find Made by Rafi and online in any bookstore. And
okay, and are you on any social media channels as well?
Well, I'm on Instagram. I'm at hashtag Craig Pomranz here. Okay. And Twitter is at Made by Rafi.
Okay.
And I love to hear from anybody. I love to hear people talk about my book. What I really love is, and what I found with doing this book is that there's constant conversation about it. And that's what I love. Keep the conversation going.
Yes. It's a wonderful book, and I'm sure people would love to connect with you. They would love to find out more about your book. So Craig, thank you so much for your time today to Little Fixes, and I wish you all the success with all your books and everything else.
And thank you for the work you're doing with Little Fixes.
तो चाहे हम कितने भी एक्सेप्टिंग हो, देयर इज ऑलवेज रूम फॉर इम्प्रूवमेंट. इससे हमारे बच्चों का भी बेनिफिट होगा, वो ज्यादा एक्सेप्टिंग होंगे, साथ ही उनके लिए लोग ज्यादा एक्सेप्टिंग होंगे अगर हम शुरू से ही हर एक जेंडर को इक्वली लेकर चलते हैं उनके साथ. अगर आपको भी ये कॉन्वर्सेशन इंपॉर्टेंट लगा तो इसको शेयर कीजिए सोशल मीडिया पे एंड टैग अस एट लिटिल फिक्सेस पॉडकास्ट ऑन इंस्टाग्राम एंड फेसबुक. और अपने फ्रेंड्स और फैमिली जिनको भी इस एपिसोड को, इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को सुनने की जरूरत है, इस एपिसोड के बारे में उनको जरूर बताइए. और अब नेक्स्ट वेडनेसडे का वेट करने से पहले सुनते हैं क्रैग का एक ब्यूटीफुल सा सॉन्ग कॉल्ड डिफरेंट. आई विल टेक यू लीव. तो लाइफ में मजे करो और सदा सैसी रहो.
Catch a snowflake in each hand, perfect. Find two shells upon the sand, perfect. Each of them a wonder, neither quite the same. though they may be similar in form and name. Girls play baseball, boys knit hats. Different. Some love dogs and some like cats. Different. Some were born to stand and sing. Some were born to run. All of us are family. Sisters and daughters, brothers and sons. Now we share this time and place on a ball that spins through space underneath the same bright star. More than what we think we are. Every bird and tree and child special, though some are tame and some grow wild. Special, shining in the moonlight, dancing in the sun. Perfect, different, special. Many